It was kind of extensive trip, um, sort of intense, but a lot of knowledge at the same time we got from the trip. Visited a few factories. The first I was stop was Poland, and I think Cherry has a lot of to say about Poland. Cherry, what do you think?
Well, first of all, Poland is nothing like what I imagined. Um, as a matter of fact, I learned so much about Poland that I was very encouraged for the rest of the trip because it definitely is a wonderful start. And believe it or not, after all the major EU countries like Germany, UK, France, Italy, and Poland is number 5 in EU in terms of GDPs. And out of their GDP, 22% are all manufacturing. And we're talking about food, beverage, automobile, and metals and rubbers and all that good stuff. But most impressively, their Industry 4.0 is actually very much leading for the rest of the world. And 56% of Poland's manufacturer implemented at least one specialty on Industry 4.0. That's something that I didn't imagine before the trip. And they have opened more than 300 R&D center in the last 2 years.
Wow, that's a really good number, and they cranking up over there. Well, I remember when we were driving on the roads over there, there was a lot of trucks, and all the trucks was going from the east to west and from west to east. Most of them was a lot of them, majority of them was going to the Germany to the border over there when we drive. But so we visit their OEM and lighting manufacturers. What do you think from two companies who visit, and what do you see what's going to happen in Poland or in the manufacturing over there?
Yeah, so a little more specifics. For example, in the lighting company, we see a 100% vertical integration. That's very impressive. They do everything from thermal foaming to SMT to painting to mechanical assembly, electrical assembly, testing, everything under one roof and in a very clean, environmental conscious environment. And obviously, they have a labor cost about average $1,000 net pay, starting off about 1,400 gross pay. But I would say this is a very automated production factory that I'm very proud of them. They have only about 420 people. Among them, production is 120. This is a really good ratio because all the plastic injection is 100% automated, and majority of their electronics assembly is automated. And obviously, they know beyond the automation saving labor cost is most important is quality control. I'm very happy to see what they did. And this is a facility that is selling to over 70 countries in the world, except North America. So that's something giving us a really good opportunity to help them export to this part of the world. We are the first American visitor ever show up in their facility. What do you think about that?
Well, that was interesting. The interesting part was when we was in the meeting, they mentioned that some companies calling or they see a lot of requests coming up, but they even scared to deal with the American companies. As you know, there are a lot of regulation. There's, for example, if you talk about lighting industry, not only Poland, but all of them was thinking about UL. So that was interesting, but I definitely see that Poland has some sort of edge comparing to any other EU countries because the labor is so cheap. The labor is cheap, and they kind of center it in between, and they bordering with Germany. So I think that's a big benefit for them.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say they're cheap because, as you know, when we produce further, they're more country even cheaper. I would say they're very competitive, but also they're not just a low labor cost country. They actually have some high tech. Believe it or not, they have this thing called aviation valley. So that's something that most people not aware. They only think Poland produce cars, but in reality, they produce aerospace as well. And on top of that, we visit the other company, which is a $90 million range, have about 600 employees, very good size, also highly automated with all their plastic injections, with the exception that they don't have electronics in-house, but they have a very good sister company to outsource. They produce a very cosmetic-driven home appliance type of finished good, which is also impressive. All the brands are well known in the world, from coffee machine to handgun to DIYs. Very impressive. But I think what I learned from the second company is they're able to scale up without major investment. They have very nice building, they have very good equipment, but they definitely did a good job to manage larger scale business without adding too many people and adding too much capital, which is critical for a growth.
Yeah, I was
What do
very
you feel
surprised.
differently? Yeah, for the second
Well,
facility.
for the boss of the company's visit was over 100 employees, and the first company was more lighting oriented manufacturer, and they have a lot of things in-house compared to the second company. They have much solid business and more competitive. Of course, bigger scale operation, but they have big clients like Lavazza, Philips, Siemens, I believe, and they do also a lot of build for big home appliances. Um, I mean, I like both of them, what I meant by price is they're cheaper than Germany.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But for a company that we call the contract manufacturer with a skill of 100 million, in US, we will qualify them as maybe tier two, tier three. But in Poland, I think they're substantially large size. Given the area only have 30,000 population and also have a very high concentration of university, 26,000 are all college students. That really allowed them for future growth because of the skills and also the knowledge base that available. So we're lucky that we're able to see the first company all the way west, 2 hours from Warsaw by driving, and then this one 200 kilometer east all the way from Warsaw. So we covered the west and east, almost 4 hour drive, 400 kilometers.
Yeah. So from there, we applied to Slovenia. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Slovenia is actually really interesting. It's a little country, only 2 million people, but believe it or not, they are so well developed because of the history. They were part of Yugoslavia and they bordered Austria and Italy, so they were most developed. And they were so clean and such a beautiful landscaping. They have 60% forest, 40 parks. And then last year, 2022, the top 10 places to people that like to visit, 5 of them in the world is in Slovenia. Can you
Well,
believe that?
well, I do because I remember I was surprised how streets are clean. Even if it's a small city, you can probably cross not the city, the country in 2 hours. But 2 hours to cross the country, go to the Croatia, it's still fast. Um, the woman who picked us up, Tatiana, she was mentioning instead of they flying from Ljubljana airport, they go on sometimes to another country because the drive is like hour and a half. But I know I see that they have some limitation with the supply chain and supportive supply chain, but they have a lot of well, I wouldn't say a lot, but they have a good chunk of the companies who was um, not with the heavy industry, but more technology-driven industry.
You're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, Slovenia have one of the top in the world 5G network, and their mobility technology is very leading for EU countries as well. And on top of it, Slovenia actually produced a lot of finished good product. Even they don't have local supply chain, but they managed really well to produce
Yeah.
a finished goods. And their trade, which is 120% of their GDP. Can you believe that? So their import export is more than their GDP combined, of course. So it's a very unique little country that thrived very well. The company we visited, they do lighting. They have some unique design for outdoor lighting. But what I do see is they're very flexible. They definitely are able to handle unique projects that with their capabilities and resilience.
Mhm. Um, unfortunately, we didn't have much time to spend there, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, but
such a beautiful country. And you realize that country you don't need to drink water out of a bottle. Every water is drinkable off tap.
yeah, that was the best. I would say that was well, I didn't have a chance to go in the lake somewhere to drink it, but it was cool. It was cool. Yeah, we stayed there a day. We set up two meetings to companies there, which is was interesting as well. And what we had from there, I think from there we went to the Turkey, yeah.
Yeah, we go all the way actually out of Europe. So Turkey is an interesting country. They sit in between Europe and Asia. So in the European eyes, they're all the way east. In Asian eyes, they're all the way west. So it's a country perfectly sitting on the border of Europe and Asia. But here's the funny thing: manufacturing is only 22% of Turkey's entire GDP, but 84% of the population engage in manufacturing.
Yeah. Well, when we was going for the meeting and to see the manufacturing, one of the companies, I was surprised there are so many new buildings building, gigantic. It's really huge. But you know, they have a good support for the local supply chain to support them, even like if they specialize in some specific things and they need die cast part, they can easily outsource locally. I would say in a radius of maybe 20 kilometers, um so that was a good surprise, because if we compare the Turkey to the Egypt, like the last place we went, um unfortunately I don't see Egypt um can attract as much as Turkey. Both of the country has really great positioning to the water, and in central of the continent. But I don't know, Turkey seems much more developed. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, I was surprised too, actually. Especially, specifically the company we visited, they already existed 30 years, ground up. They produce everything in-house. Remember, they have painting line, they have SMT line,
Yeah.
they do the PCB design themselves, they do mechanical design, prototyping, 3D printing, they have metal production. So electrically and mechanically, they both have the strengths. And even more importantly, they actually owned by a huge group in Switzerland. So they have very good leverage. For example, we experienced such a huge supply chain issue in semiconductor in the last 2 years. But because they were able to scale, utilize their economy of
Mhm.
scale with the 10 other company, that sister, brother relationship, they have no issue with supply chain, and also they have good benefits with the cost. So that is something that I was actually pleasantly surprised. And the people actually compare Turkey and China. So apparently Turkey actually won in terms of quality. because number one, they use a higher quality raw material. Number two, their attention to detail is actually stronger than Chinese. So in overall, they actually have better quality than China. So I definitely see Turkey is a rising star. Maybe in this part of the world, people have not fully utilized their advantages. Their labor rate actually is very attractive. Earlier, you think Poland is cheap for $1,000 a month. Here, you only look at $400. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
that's much better.
yeah,
But I'm just trying to think. Well, I just had the thought, but I don't see a lot of Americans actually going to Turkey. That's the thing.
yeah.
You
We
know, if
definitely
they,
need to bring up that awareness.
yeah, if they look for something, they look more in the Europe, and most likely it's gonna be, I mean, UK, which we also visited. Um, or they look to the which one? Where was the last country we didn't have time to go? Serbia.
Yeah, Serbia. We definitely need to go Serbia at some point. That's another hidden jewel that I think most of the Americans have not been realized how much potential is over there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so well, that was I don't think we have enough time for the Turkey and look around. Um, but it was interesting place. I still think we have to go there one more time and get better connection and understand how their whole integration work together. But as you said, it was really impressive that a part of the bigger group they have all in-house support for their engineering, like some simple metal jobs and finishing. So that was great. From there, we went to UK. Um, and UK, well, there are a lot of things in UK.
Yeah, well, obviously UK is much more advanced and they're no longer part of EU, but continuously every time I go to UK, you know, always find something new. So particularly this trip, we're able to center ourselves in Cambridge. I was there 5 years ago for executive training on innovation. And this time, I was really pleasantly surprised. They built a brand new village right on Cambridge. And it was such a really nice experience because you never imagine in such a famous campus that a brand new village emerged.
You can't imagine that Cambridge can be beautiful and new, not only old, yeah? That's what we're
Yeah,
trying to tell.
absolutely.
I was surprised as well. That was a good surprise for us.
Well, for
Yeah.
you to run into cow, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that was really amazing. That was really amazing. I like the Cambridge was good. A lot of people, young people, a lot of greens. So we was lucky we didn't hit the crazy traffic, and well, fortunately, we didn't go to London. But what do you think manufacturing in UK? I mean, some
Well, first
people
of
move.
all, yeah, this is the first time I actually go into a very 100% manufacturing facility. In the past, the company I visited mostly driven by technology. They have a lot of R&Ds. This is a 100% manufacturing facility. And as you can remember, they were built for the cow milking. So it's a very
Yeah,
unique building that they repurposed from agricultural into manufacturing. Definitely beautiful natural lighting. The sky is green, blue in the factory. That's something that very attractive in my eyes. And then most importantly, their procedure to make employee automatically control the quality is absolutely top notch.
yeah, yeah. Well, that was good. That was good. All the buildings, all the companies to visit was actually super clean. I don't remember what the UK company was in revenue, but they still privately owned by one family. Every company we visit was actually privately owned. That was the
Yes.
most surprising thing. It's not like big companies with a huge turnovers, and they're owned by the board and the members. But it's nice because first of all, it's easy to deal with them because they can make decisions quicker and they're more efficient. But again, in UK, I think that's a big future for a lot of smaller companies, especially, well, not only UK, but probably all around the world, because they're easier for them to compete and get better resources when they reunite with a bigger group and or become the partners with somebody else. So I definitely see the power for them over there. But
Well, on top of that, a little history of this company. Remember, 100 years ago, it was actually an American company based in Chicago. And then,
oh,
yeah, they expanded in Europe. They were part of German company. And then the last 20 years, they moved their production all the way to China. Remember, they sold it to college,
yeah,
that
that was
huge
actually
campus.
interesting.
Yeah, so they downsized, but now they're able to support some obsoleted technology, which is also important to the world. They have some very high reliability products for airplane, for mission critical, devices and technologies, and also they're part of a huge group in Spain. So this is definitely a very nice snapshot for globalization and then turning into localization. But I see very special value out of this company. The management is very sharp, and
Mhm.
the employee seems to be very well trained and long term and stable.
Yeah, I agree with that. The system and the processes they have really good. Everything
Yeah.
in place, as you mentioned before, clean.
And they have 4 airports in London.
Yeah,
Remember, it's such an
yeah,
easy
that was great.
access.
But it's so unfortunate to see those companies. They have the business, but not as much as they could have. To them.
Okay, I think you didn't talk about Bulgaria. We were actually in this beautiful called the capital on the mountain, a country that turned from socialism into capitalism since early 90s. And people probably don't realize this is a EU country without using euro. They still kept their own currency and they hold up pretty well. As a matter of fact, I want to test you. Do you know what is Bulgaria famous for number one in the world?
No, I don't. But it's a good thing you bring back Bulgaria because yes, it slipped of my mind. But Bulgaria was the one that I was the most impressed actually. The factory when we went, so I was the most impressed with the Bulgarian automation. When we walk on the bottom floor and the place, um, it was kind of mind blowing. They have like a
Yeah.
just bunch of robotics machine, all of them caged. So this means they have the technology, they have the space and to do things. But seems like at that time, or maybe for some time, quite some time, they didn't have the production that floor because it's just what he said. It wasn't the. I mean, they
It's
need high volume, yeah, high
yeah,
volume.
underutilized. So it's well positioned for future expansion. And
Yeah.
I think this factory is actually a really good reflection of the country. So just want to give you a little bigger picture of Bulgaria. So Bulgaria is number one in the world for rose oil, lavender oil production, 85%.
Lavender
Yeah,
oil.
yeah.
Wow,
They have a
interesting.
place called Rose Valley. But most importantly, actually Bulgaria invented the first computer in the world. Nobody realized that. They're actually very advanced in electronics. Remember, they had a semiconductor since the 70s.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised to see all their robotics downstairs and not utilized. So does the rest of the country. They have great resources. They're number one in the world for lead, zinc, and copper. And they produce a lot of fancy machinery, hydraulic, number one in the world for the rest of the world. So they definitely capable. but
Yeah.
somehow nobody giving them enough business to
Well, I
allow
think
them to execute.
well, I think well the big part of that Americans as we look at the American economy, a lot of consuming economy, yeah, and a lot of the company moved to China because the labor cheaper. Right now, when they bringing back or they try to bring back and they go to Mexico, I'm looking at Mexico. It's just sometimes shocking what you see in those factories when we go in. But I think it's a really good setup for American company who sell primarily to the market in US, but they have sub-market in Europe or Central Europe, some of those regions, because they can do the depot services as the repairs. They can support their warehousing. They can do OEM for them. They can even those company. The first company Poland went, they have 600 employees. So what they do, they actually have big chunk of employees on the field who can go and service even install the fixtures, the lighting fixtures, or any electrical fixtures. That's another model um, we can think and bring to our customers.
Absolutely. And especially Bulgaria also have a, a labor rate only $400. You think about this is a EU country with all the benefits of zero tax, zero tariffs among all the EU countries, but they have the same rate as Turkey. While they have all the good technology, we see wire bonding, we see SMT, we see beautiful clean room labs with the dark, light testing. We see all the great robotics arm that seems they're doing nothing. They
Yeah.
definitely have a huge potential. Even the land outside that they were hoping to build a PCB factory to support Eastern Europe market. And geographically, this factory located on the border of Serbia. That's another
Mm.
plus, is they're really capable for future, tapping into much bigger opportunities.
For future expansion and anything more to do with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely agree on that note. Well, in overall, I think the trip was success, and there's a lot of values and knowledge we can bring. Well, not just for the people who we work and we support them on a daily basis, but just for our mind to grow and expand and to educate. If we go to any meeting with somebody and they considering or don't considering, but just to know what's going on in the world, it's a good thing in the world.
absolutely. And on top of that, remember all the factory we visited, we're the first American.
Yeah, no Americans, that's true.
They really love to do business with America, but they have no sense on how to make the first step. And I'm sure equally, American would love to tap into their resources and do something about it, but it's just very hard to make the first move.
Yeah. Well, if you think in general, not everyone wants to fly somewhere because it's involved resources and time, and you have to know some. You need to have some map in your mind what the factory should look like. There's quite experience involved because you want to know the system, the processes, how is the local economy, what are the labor costs, the burn rate, what is the supportive channels for them, like as the supply chain would be to support the manufacturing. Um, so no, not a lot of people want to, or I was trying to tell that not a lot of people want to do the dirty work, dirty lifting, and go there just to explore to see what's out there and literally find jewels from another thousand like them similar ones in the country.
Absolutely. So that's why we're coming in. We're happy to do all the groundwork. We're happy to find the jewels out of the dirt, but
Oh,
they're absolutely treasured. And this is a eye-opening trip. I'm sure there are many more to come, but we are encouraged that we definitely bring a lot more value to both sides of the world. What do you think?
well, I think total the same. Well, still a lot of things to for me, European culture and that side of the world more close because I was born in Ukraine. and they've been already 17, 16, somewhere 16 years since I'm here. But still, it's easier for me to talk, and I'm pretty sure for you it's easier to talk with a Chinese or somebody from that side of the world, because you can relate or understand the process of thinking, how they work. So it's a big part of that. Yeah.
Extremely valuable.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sherry. We will have more like this to practice and to educate and to talk, to brainstorm. And it was good to see you today.
Absolutely. We got a lot to share, but most importantly, sharing is loving. Yeah. So we
Yes,
hope
sharing is caring.
the American companies are benefiting from everything we shared, and then it's more to come.
True, true. I agree with that. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll see you next time.